Hey.
Hey, we're here.
Yeah, I'm excited about today's episode. We're going to be talking a lot about, we have a grab bag of fit issues that folks have asked us to weigh in on.
That's right.
But yeah, we both have a lot going on. So what's going on with you? What's your tea?
Oh, well, I know that you and I both have a little bit of the same tea, which is that we are now more official podcasters, y'all. Equipment upgrades happening over here, technology upgrades that are really exciting. So if we look better to you, that's why.
Although hopefully no more glitches. Right. No more re-recording.
But like, do we look better in higher def or do we look worse? You know what I mean? Like on RuPaul's Drag Race, how they keep like a blur filter in the first like 6 seasons.
Nobody's putting the blur on us or our sweaters. We're not going there.
Exactly. We are unblurred.
Unblurred.
And it's the kind of day where in front of me is like a peach kombucha, a glass of water, and a coffee. And soon will be like an iced tea and a beer. Yeah. It's just one of whatever that means.
It's a drink goblin day. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm a little goofy because, as you know, Jen, I've been working super long hours for weeks getting this bralette into the world, upgrading and dealing with our tech stuff here at the pod. And I'm finally like aligned and caught up. The bra is with my editor, which means that I can pretend it doesn't exist for 24 hours or so.
Yeah.
And it feels freeing. And I also feel a little bit like I'm free falling because it's that period of like too much, nothing.
Yes. It's so weird, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at. What about you?
Well, yeah, new tech, very exciting. I've been swatching for a certain somebody's bralette test. So I've got my little banana legs, little sample here. And I'm going with a single ply. So the world will be able to hear a lot more from me on how I feel about that. I am like you. I just have finished a bunch of stuff or moved it onto a different plate. And it's time to like start focusing on the next thing. So I've been co-teaching a class on modifying your drop shoulder sweater. And so I just put the listing on my website. So there should be just a few slots left by the time this lists. So I'm excited to keep teaching that. That was a really fun class. And then I'm going to hire a sample knitter for a project.
Oh, right. And that's a first for you. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason that I'm doing that, mixed because like, it's very weird because I have knit it to the underarms twice. And for a whole bucket full of reasons, most of which have to do with trying to do too much work in too little time. It's got to be reknit for a third time. And I want to move it off my plate. So I'm kind of taking this as a sign from the universe that it's time for me to learn what it's like to hire a sample knitter. But then also I don't have anything of my own on the needle. So it's like a very weird free fall feeling like you were describing. Yeah. So I'm excited and nervous about that process.
Well, one, I'm excited that you're test knitting for me, obviously, and that you're using a single ply, which I decided yesterday to also make my official bra samples in a single ply. So that's on the way to be created now. But I don't have the feelings about single ply that you have. And if y'all don't know what we're talking about, you're going to have to watch episode 1 again.
Back to the beginning.
There's a lot of reasons, right, why single ply can be scary, but I do think this is a good project. So we're going to have a whole lot to say about that bralette design, knitting it with single ply yarns, everything in a whole special episode coming up.
Yeah.
Today's episode, like you said, we're going to be really talking about your questions. We love getting questions and feedback, and we hope that you'll keep it coming. You can drop questions, thoughts, comments right into the comments on YouTube, or you can mail them to us. And we plan to have these types of episodes whenever we've got like a handful of questions that we're excited to chat with you about, right?
Yeah, so dump them in there. We come back and look at the comments when we're doing our show plans. So we are listening to you. Put it in the comments, and we are gonna. I think we have 3 or 4 things to get to today. So should we roll the clippy clip and get to it?
Let's do it. Let's clippy. Okay.
Wow. All right.
So what do we have today, Jen? Do you want to read the first question?
Yeah, I'll read the note that Tonya sent us.
Awesome.
So Tonya wants us to talk about how to accommodate hips without making a sweater look A-line. Yeah, and I think that this is a really important question because we talk a lot about fitting like biceps or bust, but we don't talk a lot about what happens from the bust down.
It's true. I think people often assume that that's like an easy walk, right? And especially when you're knitting seamlessly, so many people will just be like, straight tube, go on down. Which assumes that your bust is the widest part of your body. And that's not true for a lot of people, myself and yourself included, I believe. And I love a long sweater. I'm also a short lady, so sweaters are going to be up against my butt. And if there's no accommodation,
she's going to be strained.
Yeah.
And I talk to a lot of knitters who are like, well, my hips are wider than my bust, so I have to crop my sweaters. It's like, no, you can just add some shape. So there are a couple different ways to do this. And I think we could probably also talk about waist shaping in here too. But an A-line is normally going to be, and I'm going to use my hands to gesture, so if you're audio only, it's going to go straight from the bust in a straight line to the hem. It's going to make like an A-frame cabin, straight lines. And I think that what Tonya is interested in is something that maybe fits the body a little bit more the way most bodies are contoured. Many of us are wider at the hip, but we might also be wider in the belly area too. And so it can be very helpful, especially if your sweater is longer, to have the bottom part of that sweater knit straight before that hip shaping starts. So it's a little bit more of a wiggle mid-torso than it is a straight A-line.
Right. And A-line is also a stylistic choice, right? So a true A-line garment, in my opinion, like you can see that gentle diagonal slope if you're looking at it from a distance, if you're looking at a person wearing an A-line garment, right? Oftentimes there's less ease in the bust, although maybe that's just me and my big boobs talking. And then there's more ease through the midsection. There's no hourglass frame there, right? It just comes straight down and out. But like in a traditional A-line skirt or dress, that soft diagonal is used to create the shape. But like Tonya's saying, you don't always want that soft diagonal shape. And you might actually even want, as you're saying, more fit through the waist, more fit through the areas where your body is smaller and or bigger, right? Because that's going to be different on every person.
Yeah, we want to give our bodies room at the hips that pretty much matches the room through the rest of the torso. If a garment gets tighter, that can really distort our figure and make our hip belly area look bigger than it is. And I'm not here for slimming or flattering, but what I don't want to do is distort the actual figure that I have. And so by making sure that you're adding stitches at the hip to give yourself a consistent ease through the garment, you end up with a garment that just feels better and moves better and is more shaped like your body.
Yeah, I think it's the movement that's the biggest part for me. That if something is tighter around that area, then when I am moving, walking, sitting, etc., then the hem of my sweater is going to be strained over and over and over again. So creating even ease throughout the sweater is what will make the sweater appear to be like a straight up and down, right? When it's on your body. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, actually in the background, I have a sweater that has very, very gentle hip shaping. And you can see that it just hangs straight. It doesn't look like it's flaring out. And that hip shaping starts around here at the high hip rather than at the low hip, so that it kind of comes in and matches the shape of the dress form's body without any wrinkling or puckering, but it doesn't appear to be a flared garment, right?
Right. It's not as dramatic as like an hourglass.
Yeah. So A-line can be style or it can be fit. When you're adding hip shaping, or where do you add it? Where's your favorite place to put it in?
I mean, in a pattern, I like to do, like when I design for someone else, I like to have, as you're saying, like a few inches of trim or of straight up and down where like you build the foundation. And then I like to add a slower rate of decrease. So I knit like everything from the bottom up. So we're assuming that, right? So from the bottom of the sweater, I like a slower rate of decrease through my hips because my body is very hourglass, and my belly and my hips and my butt are all like more juicy areas. So I feel like a slower rate of decrease as I get up towards the waist allows everything to stay fairly even because my body is decreasing. Like that is how I am built. And then personally, I do a lot of hourglass garments because I do have an hourglass figure and I do like that silhouette. And so I'll decrease at a faster rate as I approach the waist if I'm doing that for like a contoured fit. Yeah. Or I like to finish my hip shaping actually a couple inches below the bust sometimes too, so that there isn't, it's not just like a boob shirt where I feel like adding more ease. And of course I'm wearing Local Meadow, which is one of Jen's designs, and it has like 10 inches of positive ease. So it's all a mystery under here, but this is my sweater that I wear on the days that I need to have like 5 beverages around. Yeah. You know,
cozy time. Yeah.
But I feel like when there is like kind of bust measurement from this space down almost to like my waist, I really like that as a silhouette. So for a sort of general design, that has been my most used recently. So I'm doing less decreasing at the bottom, more, you know, to match that more pyramid type of shape that a lot of us have from hips towards under bust. And then I'll do a faster rate of decrease as I approach the waist. But you can like, is that the best for every shape? Of course it isn't. Like some people will benefit from having a faster rate of decrease sooner, right? Which might be what Tonya is experiencing. Do you think?
Yeah, I think that assuming that you're working from an existing pattern and you want to modify it to make room for your hips, think about how you're shaped and just make your shaping match that. If your hip is only like 2.5 inches wider than the rest of your garment, I think it's totally okay to add that shaping in at the sides. But if you're doing much more than that, having 2 sets of increases is going to be a lot sharper of an increase than having like 4 sets of increases. So at some point, I would say it makes sense to begin to distribute them around the body. And I would normally do 1/4 of the way in on the front for those columns of decreases and 1/3 of the way in from your sides on the back for those columns of decreases.
You know, I have never graded something that way, but we've talked about like the concept, and in my mind, I just came up with those same exact numbers. I was like, you'd probably want that like just a little bit and then a little more.
Like, a little bit and then a little more.
Right. So essentially, like if you imagined like a really fitted, I'm thinking of like something that like an elf would wear. They always have like those 4 seams instead of 2 seams.
An elf?
You know, like if this was like Lord of the Rings.
Okay. So like almost like a princess seam type thing.
I guess. Is that what it's called when there are seams like here so that you have 4 pieces of fabric and not 2 pieces of fabric, right? That you're seaming together for the bodice. Yeah. So that's the image that I'm imagining for like placing those increases. Like you can use
Yeah.
those other type of seam lines. And then you can also experiment with like a completely different shape, because there are like fun shapes that will accommodate hips, only like a drop waisted peplum shape, which is a very specific look. I do think it's super cute. I know it's not everyone's bag, but essentially like a straighter torso with like a skirt if you really wanted to make those increases a design feature of the garment, right?
Yeah. The other thing I would say is that you can add those increases only in the back if you're like going to Rumpus Town, right? Like you've got some
bootylicious.
You've got some booty back there. You can add those decreases just in the back. And if there's a length discrepancy, like your back needs to go over, you can also add short rows just like you would for the bust to make additional length in the back, hem only to cover the butt skis.
Yeah, which is basically exactly the same thing that we've talked about with bust arts, or that we talked about like in episode 3 with my custom fitting the ruffle addendum. We talked a lot about bust arts there, and it's the same principle. It's the same concept. If you have more tissue, muscle, whatever in one area, then you will maybe need length instead of width. Or sometimes length can accommodate that change in width also, right? Like adding that extra length could make it feel like there is the right amount of space in your hips even without changing the width. So there's a lot of, I think what we're saying is there's a lot of techniques you can experiment with to see what will be your favorite, right?
Yeah. So Tonya, if you watch this, let us know what you think you'll try. And maybe even what pattern you think you'll try it on, and keep us posted. We want to hear about it.
Yeah. And we want to see it. We still need folks to come on and show us their custom fit mods.
Oh, yes. I hope we do some of that. Yeah. Yeah. Come get in the slightly warm seat with us. Let us talk about your fit.
Yeah. We know it's a little scary, but it's fun. We're fun.
Yeah, we're fun.
You can have
fun with us. You're fun. Okay. Beth, do you want to read Fran's letter? Do you have it open? Do you want to read about what Fran wants to know? Okay.
I have, I don't know that I have her exact letter, but I have her question here. So Fran is wondering if we're going to be talking about the math around top-down raglans and shaping different necklines, which is a lot of math for sure.
Yeah, we could do a 3-hour course on this.
Yeah, and there are courses on this, not my own, but other folks. However, one, right? Oh, my light died again. We're just going raw dot.
You look good. Time. Let it go.
Thank you. Number one for Fran. A top-down raglan shaping is the exact same as a bottom-up raglan shaping, correct?
It's all the same stitches and rows.
Yeah, it's just increases instead of decreases as you shape the neckline and the shoulders. And this is why I think we talk so much about necklines and shoulders, etc., because it's where so much of the fit happens, right? Like this is the sweater, slight detour, but this is the sweater that you and I were saying, I knit this sweater based on my full bust. This is the size C one that I tested, and then I started testing size Bs, and this is an oversized drop. So it's doing the thing that like all clothes do on my frame and sliding a little bit, right? But that's because it's intended for a larger person here. And so the neckline in the raglans are extremely important because it just isn't like, this is kind of cute, but like, I don't find it as cute when a raglan is like falling off, because it really starts to distort the shape of the whole garment. So if there's like a textured pattern, etc., then you're going to see more distortion. Like I'm thinking of my Clearly hoodie, which is a textured raglan hoodie with like a Gansey diamond pattern on it. And I wanted to really make sure that the neck and shoulders were not going to be too wide or too narrow, so that they would sit on folks and not move around, because the diamonds will really reveal like that it's not right if it's
Yeah.
not right, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And things can't be oversized everywhere, right? Like the amount that a garment can slide is always going to be limited by things like armhole depth, which is why it's so important to get that right. When
Mm-hmm.
I think about shaping raglan necklines, like you said, it doesn't matter whether we're working top up, bottom down, in the round, or flat. All the stitches and rows mean the same thing. That's the dimensions of the fabric we're creating, is what matters. And when I think about raglan necklines, the thing that I see the most that I would like to talk about is the depth that we need and the contribution of the shoulders. So I'm wearing a seamless raglan, and we have to fit like our necklines start like where our shoulders meet our necks, and they go down in the back and they go down in the front, and they go down much further in the front all the way down to here than they do in the back. So we need to accommodate all of that front neck width. Our necks don't come like straight out of our shoulders. But when you knit a raglan, half of what you've cast on for the shoulder is going to come down towards the front, and half is going to go down towards the back.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that we're considering that when we consider the neckline depth. So then you just would need to make sure that any additional depth you need in the front or the back is included in that front piece of your raglan between those raglan stitch markers to create shape for the neck. Where we run into trouble is with really the smallest sizes, because they are contributing much less to front depth because that shoulder is so much more narrow. And then we see garments that are only a few stitches wide at the top of the shoulder, and there's not enough room for the back neck, and then the shaping for the front neck is kind of consistent across the sizes, and then it's too shallow and choky, and the people are sad.
And then you disappear into the neck of your sweater. Oh my gosh, that was not planned, but I have to say I'm just so proud of that improvised gesture I just did, folks. I just disappeared into my sweater. So correct. So we are saying essentially, right, half of your shoulder width is neckline in the front, and half of it is in the back. So even in your tiniest size, your most whatever petite, then you still don't want to have that top shoulder measurement be too small, right?
Yeah, I mean, if the stitches at the top neck are only a ½ inch, then you only have a 1/4 inch back neck depth, and you need to add shaping to the back of that raglan.
Which is like rare. Yeah.
A friend of mine just finished a sweater for somebody, and it's a very cute design because it comes up to this extremely small shoulder. But then when you see it on their intended's body, that neckline is shoving the whole sweater back because there's not enough room for the back neck.
Yeah. So even if you want that narrow shoulder look, then you need to mess with that a little, which is why a raglan, we all love raglans. I love them. I love knitting them. And I even like to design them, even though I feel like for me, they're more challenging to design than a set-in sleeve. Not everyone feels that way. But the reason that I don't always think they're the right silhouette, and that I also often really like set-in sleeve silhouettes, is that I do like a narrow, like a little narrow shoulder, I think is a very feminine look. Which
elegant.
Yeah, it has that like grace and kind of posh vibe that I like in knitting. Hypatia has a wide shoulder, but originally when I designed Hypatia, it was a much more narrow shoulder. And then I designed Hypatia now is more of like that sweatshirt vibe. However, Hypatia, my puffy sleeved pullover with like a narrow neckline or a narrow shoulder strap, is a very classique silhouette of like 19 whatever, Victorian era even. So you can't do everything with a raglan, right? If you want to have certain dramatic necklines, it might be easier to construct those necklines in other patterns, in other ways. Although I shouldn't really say like everything is only limited by our skills, our maths, and what the fabric will do. So there's room for innovation, but I think that typically remembering that you have to keep that space in the shoulder for your neckline in the raglan, it does impact the types of necklines that I like to use in raglan designs.
Yeah. Quick rundown of some other neck tips. If you are doing a V-neck, you may consider doing more straight here and then scooping in. It depends how deep this is. If the shoulder is really narrow, you'll want to work some straight before beginning to shape the V-neck, because our necks come down before they start to curve. So whatever neckline you're doing, you need to include room for it to come down and then begin to curve. And that's true of all. The more deep your neckline is, the more narrow it should be. The larger and heavier your garment is, the more it will pull laterally. So the more shallow and wide that neckline will get. This is I'm wearing an all cotton sample of a garment that I designed that has, I think, 60% cotton in the original. And so this is a much looser feeling, stretchier fit than it felt in another. So also know that your fiber is going to change the way that things behave. And then finally, consider that you might want to add shaping in the corners. So at its core, a raglan is a rectangle, right? We have short sides at the shoulders and long sides at the front and back. And the front should have some kind of shaping, whether that's done with short rows or bind offs for the front neck. So it's like a rectangle with a dome top. But those rectangle corners will need shaping. If you try and just do 1x1 or 2x2 rib there, they will flare and flutter at the corners and your neckline will not lie flat. So in order to deal with that, consider doing some decreases in the actual ribbing in the tight corners of your raglans to get the neckline to be supportive and not contribute to it pushing the neckline out to the side or fluttering or rippling. And that was a lot of talking from me. So
I love it when you talk, because then I'm not talking the whole time. I'm just, look, half the time, y'all, I'm Jen's mouth and I'm just saying what she's thinking and telepathically streaming into my mind.
What's your favorite neckline you've ever written for a pattern?
It's a secret. I love the neckline on the sample that gave me a lot of heartache recently that I was finishing up for a deadline, which will not be released quite yet. So I can't say too much about it, but I will describe the neckline. It's a raglan. Well, it's a circular yoke. Quotes. I'm making quotes because
it's a hybrid.
It's a hybrid, yeah. The yoke pattern on this design does not take up the entire yoke. So I have raglan decreases below it and above it. So in my mind, it's a raglan that has like an inlay. But it was designed in a hybrid way between those two. But the neckline is very raglan, and it's not incredibly like wildly different, but I just loved the execution of it. It turned out how I wanted it. And it was like, it's a higher, wider oval. So it comes like on my sweater that I'm wearing now is so stretchy that I can kind of fake it, right? It's like not as wide as bra straps, but it's almost, and it's not super low, but there is really like the back neck shaping worked out really nicely so that it does have, it just fit. The sample is not my size, but I'm really happy with the way that it fit me anyway. And I imagine it will fit even better in the intended size. So yeah, just creating a smooth circle, man. I'm like, yeah,
it's really pretty. Yeah. I know that I will often draw out in custom grid paper my necklines to make sure that I like the curves that they're drawing. It's important to get a neckline right. I feel like it's the thing that most defines the way a sweater looks.
Yeah. And in raglan necklines, I mean, I think if we're talking about math, the whole upper area of a raglan, one, you might consider that your shoulder shaping depth should be a part of that armhole depth that for your raglan, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if you have a more narrow neckline. A really wide neckline might not suffer as much. And the short rows for your back neck. I mean, if you're creating a higher neckline and you don't include that back neck shaping, then it's not going to be comfortable. And even if you're creating a lower neckline and you don't consider that back neck depth, it will still likely not sit the way that you hope it would. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah, and when you say back neck shaping, I think you're talking about short rows that you work everywhere except the front to create front neck shaping. I'm really talking about short rows that wrap over your shoulders and around the back neck to raise the back so that it's higher than the front. Yeah, and I use different words, but we're saying the same thing, because what I will say is you're just finishing that sweater. You're only not working some of the rows in the front. Because if you, I mean, this is like my favorite soapbox, right? Is that your raglan needs front neck shaping, and you can accomplish that through short rows, or you can accomplish that through binding off and working decreases. But whichever you do, it's the same exact thing. And it can be the same stitch counts even. It's the same exact thing. So, there's no such thing. This is actually, I think, going on my blog today from a previous newsletter.
Today recording or today releasing?
Today recording.
Okay.
So it will be
so
out
y'all
there.
go look. We'll link to it.
But there's a lot of myths. There's a lot of myths about what you can do with neckline shaping, right? And one is that you can do those short rows at the neck too fast, that it will change the shape of the garment. It won't. It changes this line. It doesn't change this line.
Yeah.
And this is the line that determines what your sweater looks like. So you can put them right next to each other. The same way, if you were binding off across the front of a garment and then worked decreases, one after the other, like one every right side or even one every other row, that would make a beautiful curve, and you need it to create a beautiful curve. You can do the same exact thing with short rows, working right up to each other and then turning.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I see this said, but I don't think it's true personally. And I think you're going to have a strong answer. So I have seen it said, for example, like if you're knitting a circular yoke, that it doesn't matter where those short rows are in relationship to the neckline. Like you could put them right down here around your titties, and that's the same as when they're up at the shoulders. And I don't believe that, because I just feel like it doesn't make sense to not
Spoilers,
have them.
You're right.
I don't think it doesn't make sense to me that I would add that extra length, like several inches before it's needed, because the way that wool and knit fabric of any kind, even cotton or silk, the way that it moves and stretches means that a lot of that shaping, I feel like, will be lost or will create just like a different shape on your back.
Yeah, you're absolutely 100% right.
I love it when you say I'm right.
You're right.
Thank you.
You're the rightest.
Good.
Yeah, so I'll do a quick demo. And so if anybody is audio only, this part will probably be less confusing if you come back and watch it on YouTube, and we'll chapter it so that you can find it. But there are a couple things going on here, right? So this is the raglan. This is the other sample of the one I'm wearing. If you were working short rows to create this V-neck, you would start here and then turn. And so you'd be leaving this chunk of stitches unknit. You can't do the same thing by adding rows, like people say, at the back of the yoke. So why do people say that? Because we ignore a basic fit principle when we design knitwear sweaters, which is the truth that our body is longer in the back armhole than it is the front. So to get the best fit possible in a hand knit garment, you would have a few extra rows in the back depth to accommodate that. If you have a high neckline and you don't have that, your garment is going to try and pull to equalize the pressure between the front and the back. So if you do have a garment that has a shallow enough armhole that there's not enough room for things to move around and a high neckline both, all of our bodies are going to be longer in that back curve. Think about the S curve of the spine. We're longer back there. It will begin to pull that sweater up and back. So there's a design flaw in most knitting where we do not address the fact that the back armhole is deeper. If you have a high neckline and a shallow arm side, that will cause that to choke you. And so addressing that fit issue by adding those short rows at the back of the yoke will give you some extra length there, but it is not doing the same thing as creating shape here.
Right.
It's fixing a different fit issue and allowing you to fudge it a little bit and allowing your sweater to ride back just enough then that a shallow front neck is not choking you as much. Now for beginner knitters, there's a very big brand that has a blog post about how this raises the back neck. It doesn't really raise the back neck, right? It gives you the depth you need in the back armhole.
Yeah. It lengthens the back, but it's not actually doing anything with the neck.
It doesn't do anything with the neck, and it really doesn't make room for the front of the neck. But they have framed it in a very popular blog post as a solution for raising the back neck to give you more room in the front of the neck. It doesn't. It addresses a fit issue that is totally unrelated, but that compounds choking.
Right. So you might feel as if a sweater that's choking you is improved by short row shaping at the base of the armhole-ish, right? But it will still be trying to choke you a little bit. It will just be better. If you really want it to be, ideal fit, if we're talking about a really not a lot of ease in a garment, might be both, right?
Yeah, exactly. The best fit would be extra length in that armhole specifically. And that wouldn't be, because short rows will add some there. And what short rows really are doing is adding shoulder shaping.
Right.
Because it creates the same shape as our shoulders, but lower. So the ideal fit, even in a raglan, would be to work an extra 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch in the raglan shaping and have that matched with short rows in the sleeve.
Oh.
Yeah, so that those short rows are worked in turns here on the back so that you have the full rectangle added here. And then you address the actual shape of your neck. That will give you the best fit.
All right.
We don't do that.
Fran, if you didn't follow that, what Jen is saying basically is that you can just go ahead and add, 1/2 inch or something of those extra rows to your calculation for the back and make up the fact that they're not the same with some short rows that go across the sleeve so that your sleeves get that bit of diagonal in order to have a length in the back and not the front. Which would be some really tricky advanced, not necessarily tricky, but depending on if it's not just a stockinette sweater, then you're going to be accounting. Yeah, you might be accounting for stitch counts, etc.
Mostly it gets complicated because you'll have more raglan rows in the front than the back. And so you need to distribute your decreases a little bit differently in the front than the back.
Well, right. And then that's where sometimes there is a balance between what is the perfect fit when we are again talking about a stretchier fabric, because all knit fabric is stretchier than woven, right? Or other. You're reading the fabric book. I have to catch up with you.
You do. It's good.
Yeah. We might need to do a book club episode on the fabric book. Let us know if you're into that idea, folks. So because sometimes in order to create that super ideal fit, we would sacrifice the knitability of it, the ease in reading the pattern, the ease in doing those decreases. My Clearly hoodie, which is the raglan that I have out available right now, she does have different decrease rates in the front and the back and the sleeves because I did different widths in the front and the back, which we talked about once. So I included progress charts. You do that too. Designers will do that for raglans, especially because if you want to get really advanced with your shaping, it might be necessary. Yeah.
Yeah. Too long, didn't read. Knitters look for and designers make, please, sweaters that have enough room in the underarm, and have front neck shaping.
Mm-hmm.
And that room in the underarm needs to include the shoulder rise and the armhole depth, proportionate to how close the neck is on the sweater to the body.
Yeah. You know, sometimes we just need to accept that we need to get those stockinette rows in there somewhere in a colorworks pattern or something in order to be able to make a sweater that really fits. Yeah. All right. Well,
so I feel like we're really close to Jackie's comment question.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to sling that in there. Jackie says that she would like us to write or talk about a perfect fit for intentionally oversized sweaters. And this kind of brings it back to what we started with, right?
Yeah. Well, first of all, this is exciting to me because I feel like if you're listening to this episode, you now know how to design a raglan sweater from the armpits down and the armpits up. And I'm one of my sweaters that it's about to come into like my focus. One of my upcoming designs is an intentionally oversized raglan sweater. If you go back through like my Instagram, one of my first releases was called the Love Yourself sweater. It's before I landed on my official naming methodology. And I love the pattern. It was one of the sweaters that I discontinued because I made it on like a 2-inch grade instead of a 4-inch grade, and the size range was not inclusive enough for me or you guys, or right, not what I want. So it's discontinued now, but also I knit myself 2 samples of that because I love oversized sweaters, and I knit one that was just like straight up, 14 inches larger than my full bust. And because that sweater wasn't designed with that much ease, I didn't really change the neckline. At that time, it was so long ago, and I knew relatively so little. So it was a really comfy, oversized sweater, but it constantly slid around on me all the time. And I actually gave it away to a close friend that it fits better now because I'm getting ready to redo it. And the making something fit in an oversized way, right, is not the same thing as making something
the next size up
4 sizes too big. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We need some things to be body shaped. Otherwise, that sweater is going to have very little in relationship to do with where we are in space.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because even again, Local Meadow, because it has this beautiful scoop and a drop shoulder and it has a lot of ease, right? I only am 1 size too big for myself. And I wear the sweater all the time. It's certainly not a problem, but it does slide a little. And if someone was like, I want all that extra ease, and they go 2 sizes up or 3 sizes up, like I did all those years ago, you're really then you're getting choked because your sweater's pulling so far to the side. It's like becoming uncomfortable. And it's also just not usually like the look that we're going for.
Every time you pick that thing up, I think I need to make a blanket in that stitch pattern because it looks like it would be the coziest, perfectest throw.
I know, and I'm not mad that it's like a little too big for me because it is so comfortable.
Good and you're going to have a bralette to put under there, and you're going to I know. That's what I'm going to do with this one that is just a tad too big for me. So,
this yarn, y'all, I just want to shout out Kelsey of Knitting Nikabi. Kelsey, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the name of your business, and I probably didn't do that very well. But it's if you're looking for her Instagram, it's knitting Niqabi. And this is her organic fingering merino, which Jen and I have both designed in. And it is just so soft and comfortable and comforting that I don't even bother to like depill it most of the time.
I could sleep in it. It's so soft.
It's just like, it's my bad day sweater. It's my good day sweater. It's my at-home sweater.
Yeah. And that peachy color, is that the flamingos color? It's so pretty.
This is
it Pink Ladies.
It's Pink Ladies. I originally ordered flamingos, but then that was like a brighter color, and I switched back to this one
so pretty.
Because I really like it. I love peach, and I burned a peach scented candle the whole time I knit this sweater too. So it has.
God, of course you did. The vibe.
Yeah, you know how I feel about vibes. So, anyway, moving on from the yarn. Oh, actually, it's Kelsey's yarn that I'm using in that oversized raglan too, but in DK. I really like it. So what are the areas that you think are the most important to fit when, and it doesn't have to be a raglan design at this point, I think. I don't know which shape Jackie is specifically thinking, or if it matters. Do you think it matters? What would you use for an oversized fit?
I wouldn't use a set-in sleeve.
Yeah, that does matter.
I would use anything else. And when we say oversized, what we usually mean is oversized for the body. Mm-hmm. And we can mean gentle fitting in other places, but we are looking at adding positive ease to width measurements. And sometimes maybe to the sleeves, so we get that like foldy, cuffy, squishy goodness.
Right. I was going to say, I don't think that if a garment had a really oversized body and fitted sleeves, I don't think I would call that an oversized garment. I feel like there's a different name boxy, for that. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which can be really cute, but I want, if I'm going oversized, I want that space in the sleeve. I mean, this is one of your oversized patterns. This is, like I said, it was like 10 inches or something, 8 inches.
Yeah, it's like 8 to 10. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that means it's got to fit up top. So the key measurements that I'm looking at are how wide is the neck, because we don't want it to be able to slide too much from side to side. How deep is that underarm? And we don't want more than about an inch in the underarm.
Right.
In general, because then it can go over and back and to the side pretty easily. The underarm is what keeps our sweater from sliding to the side, in addition to the neck, because if the neck has shaping, then there's lots of places it can go. But if the underarm is relatively shaped like our bodies, then it can't go places. And that underarm measurement is like so critical. And it's variable, as we talk about at length in a previous episode. But I also think it's important to think about the balance between the fabric in the front and the back. So if something is oversized, you really want to try to achieve equal weight in the front and back so that that thing hangs properly and doesn't go as many places. And so if you have like a really big open neck point, and maybe you've got a little bit of tension across the breast area where your boobs are holding it up because they're sitting on the flat plane of your girlhood here, like that is going to further support the front of the garment, and the back is going to the back is going to hang heavier in relationship to the front. So making sure that you add bust darts if you need them to an oversized garment is unintuitive, because you're thinking, oh, I've got all this extra room anyway. But you need that to offset the balance of power between the front and the back of your garment.
Okay. But I think we've talked about this before. I don't know if it made it onto an episode, but if the garment is very oversized, someone perhaps, like, I'll use my own measurements, right? So the way I measure myself for a more fitted garment, or like for the bralette, puts me in adding 2 inches of length in my bust darts, right?
Yeah.
However, when I knit myself like my Hypatia pullover, which I did not add those bust darts to, it has 4 inches of positive ease. I do think I still would have been better off if I added, but if I were to knit it for myself again, I would knit it with the 1 inch added length option, which is sometimes what I would choose depending on how much, because with the more positive ease, then my boobies are not pushing it up as much, but I do still need that length somewhat. Does that feel accurate, or am I imagining?
I think I might have agreed with you until recently.
Okay.
And I think I've just come to feel like we're already subtracting out 2 inches from... Okay, so if you're new to adding bust darts, both of us will provide fit guidance in our patterns that instruct you to measure from your inner neck point to your underbust in the front and the back, and then subtract some, usually around 2 inches. And that's because knitting stretches, and we want to err on the side of not overcompensating for the length that the breast tissue takes up vertically. And so we would subtract 2 inches from that measurement anyway. So my back is 16, my front is 11. It's 5 inch difference. I like to add about 3 inches of short rows for my bust shaping. Now, if it's oversized, we're still only adding that length in that rectangle, right? So we add those short rows so that every row is full between the apex and the bust. But then the wedge is narrower on the sides and longer if it's oversized. And I have just come to feel like I always want to add that length, particularly in oversized, because an oversized garment falls more dramatically to the sides.
Okay.
Because that extra fabric creates length here.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because it's still, I mean, the only thing you can see in this sweater is my boobies.
Mm-hmm. So if you had no breast tissue at all and you were a tube and you made it wider, that extra fabric falls on the sides.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't fill in that bust tissue, it becomes even more dramatic than it would otherwise. So, and this is a new evolution of my thinking on this and a great example of how we're always changing how we think about things.
Because I think what you said to me before is that you might instruct people to take out like maybe 2.5 instead of 2 from that difference, or in a more tightly fitting garment, perhaps 1 inch instead of 2 out of that difference. So you're saying now that you think you would probably still use the same guidance. But here's another question for you then, Jen.
Yeah.
Would you, so right now when Jen and I placed bust darts, they are not only across like your nipples, they go wider to the sides, right? Not all the way to the side seam. Would you maybe have them go less towards the side seam so that the short rows were taking up, like were placed more right over the boobies? Or would that be awkward? You still need it to wrap a little bit around.
Yeah, because I want that line to be real gradual. Because if you look at how something tips up, right? Mm-hmm. It starts here really gradually. And I want that really gradual increase down here. So if we if we stopped these sooner to the side, it would come up and then level out.
Right. It might be weird.
Yeah.
Make it weird. All right.
This is what it's actually like to hang out with us.
Yeah.
This is the real Jen and Bess experience.
I know. This episode feels very us because these are the types of conversations we have all the time.
Yeah.
But that's what helps us. You know, if you're a designer out there listening, I hope that you have a few designer friends who you can do this with, because it's how we come around to a lot of the ways of thinking that inform our design process. Just be brave and message someone and be like, hey, I'm also kind of a new designer. Would you like to be friends? That's what we did.
Buddy. And similarly, if you're a knitter and you're making these modifications, find community in that space too.
Not just for designers. We're all creative artists and we need support.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, we're at the 53-minute mark. Do you want to try and squeeze in one more? It's kind of breast related. I think we can add it.
I do want to. I don't want to leave Jess hanging.
All right.
So
speaking of
here's
hanging,
our last. Here's our last question, and it has a lot to do with everything we've been talking about today. These have been awesome. So thank you, everybody. So Jess says, how do we adjust patterns when your breasts are in the wrong place? Like long in the shoulder or shorter in the shoulder, which Jen and I are both those things. Jen and I each are one of those things.
Yeah, I think what Jess is asking here is if your bust apex is higher or lower than a pattern predicts it's going to be, which is a really big thing in knitting, because knitting is based on size charts that are for a Mrs. body, which is a young body. And if you look at a size chart for a more mature body, that bust to apex measurement, that length from your neck to your to the fullest part of your breast, is lower. It gets lower with time and activities.
Yeah, like many parts of our body.
Yeah.
So one, this is obviously relevant if you're adding bust darts. Even if you are not adding bust darts, though, it's important to consider this because, like we were saying in the beginning of this episode with the hip shaping, the designer has chosen a space where you're going to meet that full bust measurement. And if it is higher than your full bust actually is, then you're not going to get your ideal fit. And ideally, your schematic is going to give you good information about that. Do you give the measurement to the under bust, to the full bust?
No, I don't include that. I write
I
in
know.
different depths for the body when I give the instructions, but I don't cite
Mhm.
the location.
I often don't cite that location either. And
That's a
that's
good
why I was
idea.
asking you, because I don't know how common it is. Again, sometimes we're left in this place of like, how much do we give people so that the schematic is clear and easy to read? I will say this. I've gone back and forth, but now I think I'm going to go back to adding the depth of where those bust darts are sitting on my bralette so that people can adjust if you need to.
Yeah, now that you're saying it, I'm going to add it to the patterns I have in development. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of lengths that we can give. So I'm definitely not saying that someone who doesn't give that isn't trying. You might need to do your own calculation to figure it out if you're looking at a pattern. But all you're doing then is adding up the number of rows that it takes to get to that point and dividing it by your row gauge so that you can find out where the designer has placed that full bust. And if in the full bust shaping there, it's not placed in the right place, then just like we talked about with the hip, it would be a very similar accommodation. Do you want to talk about if you were measuring bust darts then?
Yeah. Overall, every garment is going to be comprised of lengths. In most constructions, that's going to be rows from the shoulder to the hem. In a raglan, it's going to be rows to where the raglan starts and then half of that shoulder. And you just want to figure out, like, if you're knitting top down or bottom up, like how many of those rows you need to knit before you get to your bust apex and make that adjustment. Yeah, and put them where you need them. If it's an A-line garment or a garment with other shaping, you may need to make sure that you have the stitch count there that the designer has intended.
Or just subtract out 1 or 2 stitches from the sides.
Yeah, depending on how they're written. But the other thing, again, this is stuff that I talk about in the blog post that I'm going to hit go on later. But we are really used to thinking of our boobs as being in our armpits. All knitting patterns reach the full bust at the underarm. And like my full bust is here and my underarm is here. So another thing that you can do is just if you are full busted and you can work more of those decreases or increases between the bust and the underarm. So let's say you're knitting a raglan and you're a busty person and your bust is lower. You can work the size indicated for your upper chest, for your torso, right? We want to fit up here first. And then instead of working extra increases in the front of your raglan to get to that full bust measurement by the underarm, you can just keep working those raglan rows right in the sides until you get to that bust apex, which will give you more width in the front than the back and also make the bust match where it is on the body. So
you're kind of saying, like, let the raglan line, when it wraps underneath you, let it become like the side seam and continue increasing there.
Yeah, just don't take that stitch marker out for the for that raglan and just keep increasing along the same line. And I've done that with my pattern soft structure has that baked into the pattern. And it works really well.
Yeah, I like that. I think that you also, if this is something that you have going on, you may also not have the same armhole depth as indicated for your size, and you might not want to check that out. That's not going to be true for everyone, but one of the reasons that I am short, like my full breast is closer to my armpits than someone else's, but that's also because my armhole depth is longer. My arm side depth is longer than someone else's. So sometimes for me, it's actually about addressing the armhole depth, and not as much about addressing where the bust is, because if I have the wrong armhole depth, then it's also going to be the wrong bust placement. But Jess, you might not have the same experience as me, in which case the other advice that we gave is really relevant, right?
Yeah, I feel like we're back to where we started with hips. Figure out where your own bumps are and put your shaping there.
Right. And that's how all of it is done. You know, you can take the pattern, see where the shaping is, compare that to your body, and put the shaping where you want it. Yeah. So I feel like this was a great episode. I hope that I don't sound like a jerk being like, great episode. But it was really fun
to record episode. Yeah, we loved these questions, and we had a lot of fun planning this and a lot of fun talking about it. So put more fit questions down there for us, y'all.
Yeah, I like feeling like I'm actually talking about something that you're interested in, at least like most of the time. Yeah. So we love it. And thank you. Thanks all. And what do we have for wrap up? Do we have anything else?
Bess, tell us what we're going to do next episode.
We're going to talk about boobs even more. All boobs. We are going to talk about my bralette pattern, but we are also going to talk about bust arts and breast shaping a lot more in that episode. If you don't know, my bralette pattern is not really like anything else that's out there right now because, well, we're going to explain why, but
you have
long
to wait.
Story short, I wanted more than one option for cup size per person. And the way I had to address that for a negative ease garment is not the exact same way that we would address it for a sweater. So it is interesting. Y'all have been asking questions and excited. And we also get a ton of questions about bust shaping. So we're going to smush them together. And maybe I'll even wear my bra the whole time if it's warmer again here in Florida.
No pressure.
Will you wear your bra the whole time, Jen? No.
I don't know. How fast am I going to knit it? When do I get my pattern, Bess?
Right. I haven't given you the pattern yet, so maybe not.
We will see. That would be really fun, though. I think that would be fun. But we are going to record that episode pretty soon, so you might not have a chance to ask us a whole bunch of questions about boobs, but try anyway. If you have questions, put them in there.
We'll still take them.
But we're planning on doing a little bit more of a squishy talk after that, talking about trends, the tension between heirloom and responding to art in the moment, and talking about kind of our color projections and what we're excited about and some of the designs that we have coming. So we think we're going to wade into some soft, squishy feelings.
I feel like it's going to be feelings. Yeah.
Feelings talk.
So if you have thoughts or feelings about trends and what that means to you, we know the word trendy can be loaded, but trends is something different. It's just more like what we're seeing around us, right? So let's think of it like that and not like a feather boa or something, which
could be a trend.
Could be a trend. Is it? So anyway,
how old are you? It could be.
Right.
Real big in the 6-year-old scene.
Oh, I was going to say inside of my heart, I'm 1,000. So like, I'm thinking of my youth when those feather boas were out and the flappers were just causing all kinds of chaos for us. It was hard times back then during Prohibition.
But we made it.
We've made it. So yeah, but right, like, do we want everything to last 100 years? Should every knitting project last 100 years? What does that even mean? And if something is on trend and modern and current, does that mean it won't last 100 years? These questions and more all coming up.
Okay. Send us your and more so that we can respond to you.
Yeah. And thank you all so much for being here, listening, subscribing. We appreciate it so much. Yeah.
Thanks, babes.
Bye. Happy knitting.